Really, really pleased to introduce to you once again, actually, Monica Olasligers from IRAP, who leads on all of this with innovation aspects for the IRAP model, new developments. She's already spoken to us at lunchtime seminar series about AI-RAP, and now we've brought her back in for cycle RAP, because I know this is an area of interest for many of you. In fact, we've got 97 people registered today, which is great, and attendees are getting up to about halfway there, so we're really pleased to see so many of you able to join us from all over the world. So Monica, without further ado, would you like to present on CycleWrap to our community? Oh, the one thing I should say is please do interact with us. Webinars are a bit strange because it's us projecting to you, but please do interact with us via the chat or via the Q&A buttons. So if you've got a question, try and find the Q&A button where you'll be able to submit a question for us for discussion later on. You can always chat as well in the chat function. And if you can't find the Q&A, feel free to put a question in the chat function as well. We'd be very, very pleased to find them there. So if you've got any questions at all, whether it's about how you start up your own CycleWrap pilot or any sort of technical information about the way it works, then just put those questions in. We'd be really, really pleased to hear from you. So sorry, I will go back to our lovely Monica. Monica, thank you so much for joining us from China today, and for giving up your time to take us through the CycleWrap model and approach. Thanks so much, Monica.
Thanks so much, Susie, for the great introduction. I do apologise, I'm having a couple of technical problems, which is going to make it a little bit challenging for me to get the presentation up. So I'm just trying to do that now. If you can give me 2 seconds, I will try.
It sounds like you may be having some bandwidth challenges, Monica. Would it be worth me finding your presentation and sharing it?
Possibly. I'm just trying to get it to work now. I'm sorry.
Yeah, go for it. No problem. We all understand these technical challenges when it comes to time.
Yes, I'm so sorry. It was just, I had a computer freeze just before the call, so I was just desperately trying to. I'm now on a different computer, but yeah, bandwidth problems are probably happening because of the switch of computers. So,
oh, bless you.
I've just sent that to you, Susie. I'm just hoping that that comes up now, but it may take a few minutes. Anyway, I've got it open on my other computer. I'm sorry I can't share that screen with you. However, what I can do is get started. So what I wanted to do is basically run you through a bit about CycleWrap. Some of you may have heard a bit about it before, and by all means, I'll try not to delve into too much of the intricate detail, but what I'll do is give you an overview, a little bit on sort of where the CycleWrap model is placed more fully, but also a little bit of a look under the hood to see what actually how it works and what goes. So much for getting that up for me. So an infrastructure risk evaluation model. So it's really about trying to help cities and design and evaluate their existing infrastructure that is there for bicyclists and for other light mobility users. And we're very mindful that this is a challenge right around the globe. We're experiencing quite a large uptick in the use of sustainable transport modes, active transport modes, mobility modes. There's a whole range of factors in there. I live in China. This is a place where there are lots of things with 2, 3, and 4 wheels on our road which are not vehicles, and the governments here have to be able to manage that in a really safe way. Sometimes conventional bike paths go in. But often, particularly for a place like China, where there's just a huge number of fast vehicles, large vehicles, pedestrians, that those paths don't offer a very good level of service nor safety. So there's a few challenges around that. And what we wanted to create is a tool that can be used very much focused on safety to help identify where those high-risk locations are and help reduce crashes. We've designed it so it can be applied anywhere in the world, on all kinds of infrastructure. And it can be used independently of just by itself, or it can be used in conjunction with a range of other tools that are out there. It can be used with mapping where cycle flows are. It can be used with the Eurorap models. It can be used with road audit as well. Susie, is that your screen showing? Sorry, are you able to flick forward a slide?
Yeah, sure. Just say click and I'll click for you.
Yeah, okay. So if you can click and then click again to the next one. So the CycleWrap model covers 4 different crash types. We focus on not just conflicts with vehicles. So if you're familiar with the Eurowrap model, you'd know that that's really very much the focus of the star rating models. But it's really necessary for us to also look at the risk around particularly single bicycle or light mobility crashes, conflicts with pedestrians, and also conflicts between light mobility bicycles and other users of the facilities. So if you want to flick to the next one, please, Susie. So the aim of it, as I said earlier, is to be globally applicable and to be based on evidence, very much like our star rating models. We wanted something that was easy and affordable and fast to use. We didn't want something, or we don't want to replace road auditors. We definitely want to have something that is an objective, easy tool that can be used across very large networks. Similar to the star rating models, we also want CycleWrap to be able to use to improve asset management, cycling-related asset management and maintenance planning, also to help prioritize investment and provide some safety indicators. Next slide, please. The reason we then came up with one of the reasons underpinning the need for CycleWrap was really this issue of single cycle crashes. So this is crashes not involving vehicles, and they actually account for a very large proportion of hospitalizations, 60 to 90%, depending on where you look at, of hospitalizations related to a cycling crash doesn't actually directly involve a vehicle. And these types of crashes also account for 17% of total cycling-related fatalities. So it's still a big problem, even if we can quite comfortably say that still the vehicle cycle conflict crashes are the more severe end. One of the biggest problems in trying to address these crashes is that there's a chronic underreporting of crashes. Basically, in many places in the world, if there are no police attending and making a crash report, then there's no, that data just doesn't get into the system. And what tends to happen if somebody falls off their bicycle, even in a severe way, an ambulance is called, but the police are not called to do that crash report. So there's a real lack of knowledge into infrastructure related causes that stems from that. In fact, all causes related to bicycling crashes, there's a real lack of knowledge around that, and a lack of tools to address the problem. So we're really trying to fill that gap and also help cities, as I said before, try and deal with some of these challenges and the huge uptick in different services that are relying on bicycling and other light mobility, such as food delivery, apps, things like that, but also advance the sustainable mobility agenda and post-COVID responses in how to encourage more sustainable transport across our transport networks. Next slide, please. So just to give you a little bit of the history behind it, this really originated back in 2014 when SWAB in the Netherlands published a series of studies for methods of assessing bicycling safety. And then in 2015-16, we got together with to try and develop the first version. So those initial versions from around that time up until 2018, the model then, the first version of the model, it was quite a detailed model, and we did a really thorough review afterwards, and there was a few gaps in it. So some of the issues that were raised at the time, we decided that it was worthwhile going back to the drawing board and coming up with something that was going to be a bit more cost effective and easy to implement. That was one of the key things that we wanted to address. The other one was that we wanted something that could then give us for the results. So based on the outcomes of the risk model, that it can then suggest sort of the top 3 to 5 things that road authorities needed to do in any one place to improve the safety in that. So there was a few things we really tried to address, and we did so. So in 2021, we assembled a Cycle advisory group, which includes, I think, 20, a whole mix of from different sectors. So some are in the road assessment sector, companies supplying that. Others are academics in there as well, all looking at this being tested. And as part of that, we've now moved to doing large-scale pilot assessments as part of the Sabrina project, which I'll say a bit more about in a minute. We're also moving on to this part to model development. So the risk part of it is done. We're now moving on to the treatment plan part of it, and then we're planning to be launching mid-year officially. Next slide, please.
Monica, can I suggest that you turn off your video to see if the audio improves?
Susie, is my connection holding up on your end?
It's a little bit difficult.
Can.
So yeah, if you turn your video off, it might just improve. Awesome.
Okay. Okay. Well, is it a bit better now?
Not perfect, but okay. We'll keep going.
All right, thanks. So just to give you a bit of an idea about the model structure. So the model is created in such a way that it originates with these crash initiations. And Susie, if you just want to step through to the end of this slide, because there's a few animations in here. But the model starts with crash initiation. So essentially we ask what initiates the crash. Yeah, 2 more clicks and I think we're done. Or maybe what initiates a crash. So for instance, if you're trying to avoid something, we look then at crash triggers, what must be present for a crash to occur. So things like obstacles or another user on the path. And then we look at contributing factors, so things that amplify the risk. So what's going to increase the likelihood that trying to avoid something on a path is going to increase the likelihood of that crash. And it might be something like there's lots of obstacles on the path, or it's really narrow, or there's lots of people. Then we look at possible crash outcomes. So basically what happens if you swerve, what could happen? Well, you could run into the obstacle that's on the path, or you could fall over. We then look at what that crash outcome. So if you're running off the path and to a road lane with high traffic, very serious, as opposed to if the green grass next to it. Then the last one is looking at the things like traffic speed and other severity determinants, like is it downhill? Susie, can you flick to the next slide? And once again, just step through some of these. But just to use an example, so for an avoidance maneuver, we look at things like what can happen. Nothing might happen. You may be able to avoid whatever's in the way. You may fall or conflict with whatever's on the path. You may depart from the facility, or there are cases where you could end up hit by. Susie, if you can hear me, I'm going to change rooms and try and get a better connection.
Thanks, Monica. Yeah, the connection's really struggling. Thanks for keeping with us, everyone. I know it's the audio is really quite challenging, so Monica's just going to see if she can establish a better connection elsewhere, and we'll be back with us shortly.
Okay, is that any better? Unstable, unfortunately.
That sounds an awful lot better, Monica. Let's
okay.
That we found better. All right.
I'm so sorry. China and the internet isn't the best place to be trying to do these things from. Okay, so flick to the next slide, please, Susie.
Monica, tell me when to stop if there's a lot in this slide.
And you can just flex one. Yeah, so just as an example here, for crash triggers, for instance, yeah, no problems. So you can just flick to the so everyone can see it, but they have to be present for one of these different crash initiations to happen. And then we have the severity, sorry, Susie, if you can just go back to the previous slide. And then we have the contra examples of things that of how the model works, and I'm happy to answer any questions about this as well. So there are 4 crash initiators, and so based on these 4 different ones, there are a different set of crash triggers and a different set of contributing factors. So Susie, next slide, please. So for example, one of the crash outcomes could be departure from the facility. So then we have a set of conditions and severity multipliers. And Susie, if you just want to click through. So for instance, one of the conditions severity multiply would be how many large vehicles are there, and then we get that gives you the score for that particular crash type, in this case a vehicle bicycle crash. Similarly, similarly, for if there's a sidewalk next to it, the things that are the speed of bicycles, large mopeds or heavy bikes are there, is it downhill? And then that would give you your conflict with pedestrian score. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick example. We have a demonstrator that we can share, and you can have a play with the model and see how it works for yourself. But this just gives a bit of an example. So say we had a path like the little graphic there on the right-hand side that is a two-way path. We've got two surface issues. We've got some trees next to it, but there's no traffic lane. If you hit to the next slide, please, Susie.
Monica, your audio is still quite shaky, so I'm never quite sure if I'm in the right place when it comes to the slides. I think there's a bit of a lag. Is there anywhere else that you can go to?
The top of the demonstrator shows the different scores changing and the overall cycle increase, the width of that path. You can see that the bicycle pedestrian and bicycle crash type. Okay, Susie, is that better? Sorry, it dropped out altogether.
Hopefully it's been really choppy, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I'm wondering if we should reschedule and come back. What do people think out there? Are you managing to follow enough, or would you like us to cut this one short and then try again maybe on another session? Post your views in the chat so that I can get a feel for how people are coping with people are saying to reschedule.
Yeah, okay.
It's quite choppy.
Okay, well, Susie, if you can, just flick through to the very last slide at the end. There is a QR code that I show there. At the QR code there, you can access the CycleWrap webpage, and that has the materials. It also has a really great video, which is very similar to the presentation I just gave. So that Shanna does. So you can just watch that on YouTube. And what we might do for a follow-up is maybe a question and answer session. If people want to ask questions, I'm happy to make that time to do so.
That would be fantastic, Monica. So that the instruction was to see if you can watch on YouTube. We'll get some information out to everybody that's been attending today, with the links and so on, so you can watch. And if you can then submit questions, we'll arrange a separate Q&A session with Monica, hopefully at a time of day when China's internet is more reliable. We'll put that in the diary so that we can follow up. I'm so sorry everybody about the internet and connectivity issues, and thank you so much for trying so valiantly, Monica. We really appreciate your efforts, and we know how hard it is when everything goes tricky when it comes to internet connection. So thank you very much for your efforts, and we will make sure that we put in that Q&A session for those that are really interested in getting to grips a little bit more with how they might apply the approach or how the model works. So thank you so much everyone for persevering, and we will be in touch very shortly with everybody that's attended so that we can get you up and running with the recorded presentation.